Tonight, New South Wales cracks 1,000 COVID cases a day as Broken Hill residents continue getting tested, and calls for locals to use QR codes when visiting local businesses.
From our 7 Spencer Golf Studios, your nightly news with John Hunt begins now.
Good evening. Well, it's another day and another record for COVID infections in New South Wales, with the state breaking through the 1,000 case mark today. There were 6 new cases in the far west as the pathway out of lockdown becomes clearer.
For the first time in the far west's COVID outbreak, the sad news of a Broken Hill resident in intensive care, and warnings continue we're not out of the woods yet.
We're sitting on a knife edge. It's a tinderbox ready to explode.
To 8 p.m. last night, there was another case in Broken Hill and 5 more in Wilcannia, bringing the total there to 50. And now 1 person has been hospitalised. The positive close contact admitted to Broken Hill Hospital yesterday.
We did escalate that quickly, and the person was transferred really within a matter of 6 hours out to Adelaide. And as far as I'm aware, the patient is doing well.
Broken Hill Hospital only has 5 intensive care beds, but health officials say plans are in place to ensure patients receive the care they need.
If it's beyond our capability, we'll certainly be transferring them to Adelaide or really any other facility that may be available at the time. 93%
of our COVID cases are Indigenous. The Premier grilled on how the virus was allowed to reach remote areas.
Well, the New South Wales Government has worked really hard to support all of our vulnerable communities across the state, and will continue to do that.
Broken Hill's vaccination rates praised, with just under 57% of locals having had at least 1 dose. 36% are fully vaccinated.
We still have a way to go, but I think that when you compare really us to a lot of the other remote communities, we're far in advance in terms of vaccinating the whole community.
That number only said to grow, with the Civic Centre expected to open to walk-ins soon. Lachlan Itter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
And Broken Hill's lockdown has been extended, along with the rest of regional New South Wales, by at least another fortnight. But extra freedoms will arrive sooner than that for those who are fully vaccinated. Lachlan Itter has the details.
The current stay-at-home orders have been extended until at least the 10th of September, and that applies right across the regions.
The reason you may not have cases is because of the restrictions in place, minimising movement, because we know we're a very interconnected community in regional rural New South Wales.
That means we're only allowed to leave home for essential reasons, including these, and can't have visitors. Those who are fully vaccinated will soon have extra freedom.
If you have friends or relatives within your LGA or within the 5 kilometres, you will be able to congregate together in an outdoor gathering of 5.
When the rule comes into effect from the 13th of September, it'll be the first time those fully vaccinated against COVID will be given greater rights.
In September, the weather will be a nice time, and we know that outdoor spaces are less risk. What we're doing is also incentivising vaccination.
Meanwhile, the plan to reopen schools will be outlined in tomorrow's state government press conference.
Port Augusta businesses fear QR code check-ins are now being used less by the community. Retail unions say while it's not the business's responsibility to enforce the check-ins, residents should do it to protect the state.
With the last state lockdown a recent memory, concerns are growing with local complacency around checking in with QR codes. With reports customers are faking check-ins, the Premier Stephen Marshall urged people last week to do the right thing by South Australia.
Abide by wearing their masks when required, and of course QR code check-in when they are required. We're asking people to do the right thing. It's not up to individual owners of businesses to be policing that work.
The situation reigniting the debate over whether it's fair to expect individual retailers to hire more staff to enforce the law. Abuse and threats of violence towards workers condemned.
It is completely abhorrent when there is any abuse to business owners or employees trying to point out to patrons what they should be doing to keep our state safe.
We don't want to see a retail worker cop abuse for trying to make sure that we're doing the right thing and keeping the community safe.
The Shop Workers Union saying local businesses shouldn't have to fork out for extra staff.
Essential retail workers are the ones that work through when others worked at home. They work through this crisis, putting the community ahead of their needs.
Edward McCarroll, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
4 people have been arrested after a large amount of stolen property was found at Peterborough. Police allege at about 9:30 yesterday morning, officers searched a home in relation to a recent investigation. Officers finding jewellery, electronic items, white goods and clothing. A 46-year-old woman, a 37-year-old man, a 33-year-old man and 18-year-old woman were charged with unlawful possession. They were bailed to appear in the Peterborough Magistrates Court in October. Still to come tonight, a rate rise coming for Port Augusta as council warns some pain is on the way. And our region's roads set for an upgrade. Welcome back. Port Augusta Council has adopted a revised budget, with this year's rate rise less than previously proposed. However, residents are warned to brace for unpopular decisions as council attempts to save money elsewhere.
It's been a process which caused community anger, but now Port Augusta's council's budget has been finalised. Elected members adopting revised plans for the financial year at a meeting earlier this week. Backlash over a proposed 20% rate hike prompting them to make significant changes to the document.
A lot of hard work's been going through this process. We started this about December last year.
Compared to the draft version, the amount of revenue expected to be collected from ratepayers will be reduced by more than $1 million. Rate increases for this year have been capped at 10% for residential landowners. However, general rates in other categories could still face a 20% jump.
And originally we were going to have a 20% increase on residential. In the motion I put up on the 16th, that was reduced to 10%. So that's a pretty dramatic change, taking 10% away from something.
The operating deficit is now expected to be $3.154 million, $800,000 more than originally planned for. Council is working to slash that figure, warning savings will need to be found.
So through the expenditure budget, there's been many cuts, but we'll still provide the community with what we can, the best we can.
The Ratepayers Association cautiously welcoming the changes.
I'm hoping that this is the beginning of some reform to get us back to reasonable rates.
Edward McCarroll, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Rural roads on the Copper Coast are set to receive a much-needed upgrade thanks to federal government funding. The region's mayor says council is grateful for the cash injection, which will help improve their current condition.
A major cash boost paving the way forward.
Our rural roads are a really important link within our community. They're the roads that link our 3 towns and link our rural communities, our farms, and they're often dirt roads.
Local council benefiting from round 3 of the federal government's Local Roads and Community Infrastructure program. They've been allocated more than $820,000 towards local projects.
We're actually getting some really good work done. Projects in many cases that council would not have been able to afford. So if there's anything good to come out of COVID at the end of it all, we'll have a big upgrade on a lot of things across all of our communities.
$400,000 of the funding will be used for resheeting and maintaining rural roads.
They're where our farmers are travelling, you know, getting their produce where it needs to go. And importantly, it's where our school children are on the school buses, and it's really important that they have a safe road to travel on to get to school.
Council is now looking at what to work on next, applying for stormwater drainage grants for projects in Moonta.
We've been doing some stormwater work on East Terrace and we want to continue that by going down Moonta Road as well.
Katrina Musson, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
It's been revealed almost half of cars driven past a Broken Hill preschool were speeding. Traffic counters were installed outside Happy Day Preschool after the Transport Department ordered the removal of its school zone. Of those exceeding the 50 km/h limit, the average driver was travelling at 65. One person was recorded doing 157 km/h. Additional signage and speed blisters were installed following community backlash over the school zone's removal. South Australia has been selected as the location for a new 5G industrial incubation lab. The lab will look at using 5G technology to help monitor issues like emergency management throughout the state's power network. $20 million has been allocated by the federal government for the project. The wireless system is used to connect robots, machines and sensors to computers remotely and is considered a backbone in the automation of physical industries. If you've ever considered making the switch to electric cars, now might be the right time in South Australia. The state government today announcing subsidies for motorists who purchase a new electric vehicle as law changes entered Parliament.
An $18 million incentive driving the take-up of electric vehicles.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of things to try and help people transition to electric vehicles, partly because of the obvious benefit of not having exhaust or pollution, but also because they are incredibly beneficial with regard to stability of the grid.
The state government offering a new $3,000 subsidy for 6,000 new fully electric vehicles purchased in South Australia. It's subject to changes to legislation regulating electric cars, which is currently before Parliament. The bill, which was introduced today, delays the road user charge by 5 years to July 1, 2027, or when the sale of them reaches 30%.
Helping the people who want to buy electric vehicles, but also when electric vehicles become more and more common, they will have to incur a road user fee because otherwise the petrol and diesel vehicle drivers are paying the entire bill for road maintenance.
The Energy Minister says the road user charge is intended to be around about the same as what petrol or diesel car owners currently pay.
So the road user charge for an electric vehicle will be based on kilometres travelled. Same principle. The more you use the road, the more you would make a contribution to road maintenance.
Katrina Musson, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Stay with us. Local farmers welcome new state government support. And Wyler's Dancing Queens and Kings absolutely ready for this year's musical. The livestock industry has welcomed a $5 million injection for the cattle and sheep industry, announced earlier this week. They're looking to implement a number of projects over the next financial year to help the multi-million-dollar sector.
A cash injection to help grow the cattle and sheep industry in South Australia. The state government signing off on the proposed funds following recommendations from Livestock SA and cattle industry fund boards.
The livestock industry in this state alone employs about 30,000 people, so it's a big employer right across the state.
A total of 32 projects are in the pipeline for this financial year. Livestock SA saying the South Australian livestock industry has a renowned reputation in animal health management.
It also works on farm biosecurity, endemic diseases. There's a whole raft of projects that have been approved by the Sheep Industry Board and the Cattle Industry Board.
Developing the South Australian sheep and beef industry blueprints, an important step in the process.
Highlight the opportunities for growth that might lie within their sectors in the coming years. So that's been another important part of the work of these committees.
The funds generated, giving the industry the opportunity to lobby other agencies.
Allow us to actually leverage money and say, look, the industry's putting in $1. How about our research and development corporations, Australian government, South Australian government and other contributors? We're putting in $1.
Dylan Smith, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
It's take two for Port Lincoln's Fame Awards after the event was postponed last month due to South Australia's lockdown. Organisers confirming they will go ahead next Friday night, September 3, at the Nautilus Arts Centre. Awards will be presented for all video entries, and people attending on the night are encouraged to dress in the theme of vintage circus. The red carpet will be rolled out, with awards for best dressed on the night also up for grabs. Musical theatre is back in Whyalla, with the hit stage show Mamma Mia starting tonight at the Middleback Arts Centre. The show has been seen by millions of people around the world, both on stage and in the cinema.
It's a musical loved by so many around the world. Now it's Whyalla's turn to watch the stage spectacular Mamma Mia, backed up by a soundtrack of classic ABBA hits.
I've always been involved in theatre ever since I was young. I used to go to the theatre with my family and my grandma and my mum, and so I've sort of grown up with it.
The story involves 20-year-old Sophie, who is yearning to know who her father is before her wedding to fiancé Sky. Sophie's mother Donna, keen to forget her past as a performer, has a surprise coming for her.
Her daughter wants her dads to be present at the wedding, her father, but Donna doesn't actually know who the father is, so it's a little bit of a journey to find out who Sophie's father is.
Since 1999, Mamma Mia has been performed at London's West End and on Broadway, also adapted to the big screen in 2008. Cast members, who are all locals from the Whyalla Players Group, keen to showcase their talents to the wider community.
It just helps me integrate with the community, helps me bring people together. It's really good for making friends.
Their first show is tonight at the Middleback Arts Centre, with the show wrapping up on Saturday night. Tickets can be purchased on the Country Arts SA website. Mark Zita, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Stay with us after the break. We check what's biting in the Spencer Gulf this weekend. And we'll have the latest weather details with Alex Sykes. Hello again. Time now to check what's biting when we drop a line in the Spencer Gulf this weekend. Here's our fishing experts with their tips.
Welcome another week around the Gulf Fishing Tips. As promised last week, we got out there chasing those King George whiting and squid. There's quite a few squid amongst them over at the shoal in bigger size. I myself was fishing around Cockle Spit, and there's absolute truckloads of squid there at the moment, but they're probably 4 to 5 inches long. So give them a couple of weeks and they'll be grown, and we'll be looking at a good range there. In shallow, we have seen that the trumpeters start to turn up, which is quite unusual. So I'm hoping that we might have a great summer for crabs as well. So that's all we had this week. We'll see you next week.
Hi, Whyala's fishing tips this week. Land-based across Whyalla, the local jetty still holding some good numbers of squid. Again, late in the afternoon has been the best. Into the night time, there has been some nice garfish coming in off the Whyalla jetty. A little bit further around the coast down towards Black Point, there's been some nice salmon schools, so work along that coastline then and have a look. I'm sure you'll be lucky to find some. Around Point Lowly, some nice snook and squid around the boat ramp. And for the boaties around Whyalla, King George whiting coming again, Marrick's Tyre Reef, south of Cowlard's Landing and the northern and southern end of Eastern Shoal.
G'day and welcome to Fishing Tips in Port Lincoln. Well, in our bay locally there's been a school of salmon up along the North Shore, providing a bit of fun for local boaties. The squid have been going okay, not thick but enough to get a feed. Crews have been doing okay up along the North Shore, especially around Stinky Creek. Over in Coffin Bay, the farm beach grounds continue to produce a few whiting, although they're not big, most are around that 30 to 32 centimetre size. Out wide of Sir Isaac's there have been some nice red snapper and even the occasional smaller Samson caught out that way. Well, that's all for fishing tips this week. We'll see you again with more tips next week.
And with a look at how the weather on the water and on the land is looking this weekend, it's good evening for the penultimate time this week to Alex Sykes.
Thanks, John, and good evening, everyone. It was a mild and mainly fine day across the region today. From 3 p.m, Port Augusta was partly cloudy and 17 degrees. Broken Hill had a shower too and was 15, and Cooper Pedy was sunny and 18. Looking further out now, Port Lincoln, Whyalla and Adelaide were partly cloudy 14. Port Pirie and Woodner had morning frost reaching 16. Kadina and Cleve were 13 degrees. Taking a look at the satellite image now, scattered cloud across southern South Australia in brisk southerly winds is causing causing a few showers, mainly light. Skies are clearer in the north with a high pressure ridge over the region. Moving on to tomorrow's weather outlook now, and we'll start with the Gulf waters. East to southeasterly winds 10 to 15 knots, seas below 1 metre, and south to southwesterly swells 1.5 to 2.5 metres. A short time ago, there was a marine wind warning for South Australia and a frost warning for tomorrow for the mid-north, Riverland and Murrayland's forecast districts. Port Lincoln to reach 18 degrees tomorrow, Cleve mostly sunny and 19, Woodner partly cloudy and 22, while at 21, Port Augusta morning frost then sunny and 22 degrees, and Kadina similar conditions to reach 18. Port Pirie sunny and 21, Clare 15, and Broken Hill mostly sunny and 17 degrees. Taking a look at the weekend's forecast now, Port Pirie and Whyalla 20 degrees on Saturday, 22 in Port Augusta, Port Lincoln showers 15, Woodner 16, Kadina a shower or 2 and 18, Broken Hill will reach 21, and Cooper Pedy will be sunny and 22. To Sunday, Port Lincoln and Woodner will be 17, Port Pirie and Broken Hill 18, a possible morning shower in Kadina 16, Whyalla partly cloudy 19. Looking to next week now, partly cloudy across the region, Port Augusta 24, Port Pirie and Woodner to reach 22, 19 degrees in Port Lincoln, Kadina and Adelaide. Well, it's International Dogs Day, so I'm sure there are a few dogs in our region with an extra treat in their bowls tonight. And that's all the weather from me for tonight. John, back to you.
Well, they certainly deserve it. Thanks for that, Alex. And that's the local news this Thursday evening. Thanks for joining us. I'll have updates later, and we will be back tomorrow before the footy at 6:30 p.m. Until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.